Kristian Jack with Jesse Marsch. Pleasure to see you again,
In between two ferns, or what was it?
Yeah, that's it.
We've had that a few times.
We've had it a few times, right? The sit down, right?
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
There's only one place to start right now, my friend, with you. It's been about 48 hours since the press conference in California ahead of the Nations League.
Yeah.
How's it been since?
Yeah, it's been it's been. I expected it to resonate with people. So, and I was intentional with, I think, the things that I said and what I wanted to say. And more than anything, I've been really dissatisfied with the talk around Canada as a nation. And the more time that I've spent here, and the more people I've met around the country at different places, the more fond I've become of the mentality, the togetherness, the society, the culture of what Canada is and what it means to be Canadian. So I wanted to make sure that was reflected in any kinds of those questions about the hockey tournaments or the matches or the Nations League. So I think it came across the right way, and I think there was an appreciation from most people about the things that I was talking about.
There was a remarkable appreciation across Canada. Did you think it would be that wide? I mean, some of the comments that we received even at the network, people crying, people understanding they're not really understanding who you were before, and then you spoke for them. Like, did that resonate with you and your family, the strength of how much you touched people?
Well, look, I knew, being an American, I knew it would have an effect, right? Because I think I'm in a unique position of this role I have, of my growing up in the U.S., seeing things over years. So I didn't know that it would resonate so directly with people, but I'm happy that it did. And more than anything, I hope that it really rallies people around our team, because in the end, the thing that I thought maybe the most about in terms of setting the tone for what the Nations League would be, obviously the comment is bigger than sport, but is that these games are going to take on a different kind of tone, right? After watching the US-Canada hockey games, I knew that all of a sudden there was a different kind of energy. And I want to make sure that our team is not naive, that we know that the stakes have changed, and that we are ready in all ways for what these games are going to be.
You are a leader of men. You mentioned it was bigger than sports, and we're aware of that, but this technically is a sports channel, and we want to talk about football. Could you have done that if it wasn't for the players and the way they are with you? And what I mean by that is, we all know what they're like, right? You've said it, world-class people, world-class players, great group of people who understand that you're okay being in front of them. That's not always easy for a group of high professional people with egos to understand that you might be the face of that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but for me, a big part of it has been just representing, like challenging them, but representing them. My job is to challenge them to be the best that they can be, and to maximize our potential every day, and to challenge them to maximize their potential in what they do with their club teams, and making sure that we're growing and pushing the level at which we can play individually and as a group.
Yeah.
But then it's the representation part, They know, I've said to them a lot, like I've talked about them being the people's team and the reasons why they're the people's team. I've talked about it being their team, not my team. They're Canadian, not me. I've asked them a lot, what does it mean to be Canadian? How to represent this in all the right ways. I've challenged the leaders to really take on bigger roles than just normal captaincies or normal leadership council roles, but like real roles of enriched leadership in the team. And they've all responded brilliantly, right? Really, beyond what I could have ever hoped. And in there, it inspires me to continue to figure out how to do my job better, and to continue to create the right kind of platform for them to show who they are, what they are. Because like you and I have talked, like I've said, they are magnificent.
Yeah.
They are magnificent people, and they are magnificent players.
They are, and you talked about what you want from them. Do you recognize this might be what they want from you, and you're comfortable stepping into that? And we've got a World Cup coming in 16 months, and I know almost in every answer you talk about the Nations League, you lead to that. Mm-hmm. It is not something that's coming up, it's here, right? Mm-hmm. The preparation for that.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable being that face? You're probably going to be the face of Canada now for this World Cup at home.
I would hope I'm not the face. I'm hopeful that they are. Like, they need to be the ones that are the household names. They're the ones that need to inspire the nation. Right. But I understand that when you're in this role as a coach and as a leader, that you have to embody everything that's important for what the team needs to be. So I'm not afraid of that. I think the players know that I'm not I'm here to be a leader of them and a leader of the movement, so that we make sure for the home World Cup that there's an idea behind who the team is, how they play, how good they can be, and the energy in the country to support them is at the absolute highest level, which will make us my goal is that when we step into the stadium for those matches, that we feel invincible. Like, call us the Invincibles, right? If you want. But like, that's my idea, is to create an energy around the team that makes us feel unbeatable.
You said you think the players know. They do know, right? They do know that of you. I've told you this before. There are leaders, and you and I have spoke on camera and off camera a lot about leadership. There's transactional leaders who do things when they get things back, and there's transformational leaders. Already you're in this job less than a year, and you're a transformational leader for this country. Not just in a press conference, by the way, what you're doing on the field. To be able to give back to this country what you've already given in a short amount of time, and to these players, how does that make you feel?
Well, there's still so much work to be done.
I know that, but
that's
reflection for a minute. Like, it must.
You
were given a job and a role, obviously, to take on this job, right? And many people, when you got the job, Jesse, didn't think that they could get you with your credentials. My point is, do you put your head on a pillow at night and still be proud of what you're doing, representing this group of players in elevating what you just told me about?
Yeah, I mean, look, I just like this job. I don't reflect on, in the moment, like, I know that things have gone well in linear, but again, we're not at the end of the road here, like this, even with the statements I make and the idea of what Nations League is, and then how it's going to mean for this, what it's going to mean for the summer, and this is all about a vision of how to maximize and get the best out of them. And if you get caught as a coach and a leader thinking that you're doing a good job or you're too far ahead of yourself, that's when you have slip-ups, right? And so the concentration and the laser focus I have to get the best out of this team, because in the end, as all the things I'm trying to do with supporting the sport, being here in Ontario to be at the summit, to reinforce certain things with coaching, to make sure we're developing the CSA and getting more out of our youth teams, and working with Casey Stoney to really integrate I know in the end, everyone's only going to care mostly about what happens in 2026.
Correct.
Right? And I have to make sure that I'm on my toes all the time to get the most out of that. So I appreciate it. I know things are good. I know we have a good team. I know we're in a good way. Of course, I'm proud of the work and all that other stuff. But, dude, this is about the World Cup. Yep. This is about preparing a team that is really talented and has massive potential to make sure that we can really set the country on fire in 2026.
Let's go there then. Okay. So 2026, at some point in one of those games, match one, maybe quarterfinal, who knows, I don't want to get too far. In one of those games, because you've done this many times, for about 10 minutes, you guys are going to really suffer. And you might be down in the game, and you're going to have to realize we need to lean on the adversity that we've learned throughout this. Exactly. Have you had enough of that adversity yet?
We haven't had enough adversity
That's
yet.
what
so we need to like, look, this tournament for me, it represents that. And we need to know that our backs are going to be against the wall in many moments of both of these games, and we're going to have to draw on our experiences. We're going to have to draw on our common understanding and trust of what we're building, and then we're going to have to be able to execute in a time when we only have 2 training sessions. Most of the guys are traveling across the world, and there's a million excuses we could make, but for me, I'm super excited that we have massive challenges, right? This is, we were trying to plan it so that maybe we could be the top seed, so that we could have maybe the easier first game. And playing Mexico in the first game, I think, is in some ways the worst game we could have had.
The toughest one you have. Yeah.
Right? Because the crowd will be full of Mexicans. It'll be massive. But I just want to make sure, we need this. We need to make sure we're ready for it. We need to make sure that we understand exactly what kind of game it is, that there's a charged political scene around it. Mm-hmm. And just like to learn from what happened in the Canada-US hockey game, we need to learn from it in all ways and make sure that we are prepared in all ways to be our best, to respond, and to win a trophy.
You mentioned the hockey game again there. It's resonated with you. Know how Canada made the adjustments from game 1 to game 2?
Yes. Well, I mean, look, in the first match, when there's 3 fights right from the get-go, maybe the U.S. getting their national anthem booed and everything else, it lit a fire under them, and maybe Canada wasn't fully ready for what that game was going to require, but they responded in the second match, and I think their mentality showed. For me, why they won the second game and why they lost the first game almost had nothing to do with the match plan of what the 2 coaches put in place. Right. It was an understanding of exactly what the game was going to require. Our team has shown over time, whether it was Copa America, whether it was the first match against the U.S., first match against Mexico, the matches against Suriname, our team has shown an understanding of exactly what the games are going to require. We're going to need that again, and this is part of the maturity. The idea of achieving the potential of what the team can become is not just about tactics. It's about the mentality and understanding what real moments require.
So some of those moments require real leadership from players. Some things you can't do, right? You need that critical mass inside that room to take leadership. And you told me when we talked in Atlanta that in many ways in Germany they didn't agree with your style of leadership. Mm-hmm. But it is to lead within at that point.
Yeah.
So let's go with some of those leaders. Since we've last spoke, Alphonso Davies is signed again with Bayern Munich. How happy were you around that process that he's now locked into that club, and what did you see from him during that time?
So I met with Alphonso about 2 weeks ago now, and he was just getting ready to come off of injury. He had just signed his new contract. He's also engaged, and right away from the start of us sitting down together, I could see he was different, and I could see he was more mature. I could see he came to the conversation prepared, not even knowing exactly what we were going to talk about, because I told him, look, there's a few things just we'll talk about. It's nothing, it wasn't anything too heavy. It was just to go through how things have gone, go through where he's at with things, and then start to really create the vision of how we need to continue to steer this moving forward. But he had a really good grasp of almost every topic of conversation we had. He's been following guys, he's been communicating with guys on their teams. And he was the one telling me how important this tournament is and how excited he is and how much we need to be ready for exactly what it's going to require. Right?
That's captain.
Yes. I finished the conversation. I gave him a big hug and I was like, all right, my man, let's go, brother.
Yeah.
So this is what I believe. I believed in this with Fonzie from the beginning. I just think he's had to be challenged and engaged in that way, and he's responded.
He will only be 25 at the World Cup. I think he'll be the youngest home World Cup captain since 2002.
Okay.
Right?
So that would be Park with Korea?
No, the Japanese player,
okay.
Yamamoto, the left back.
Okay.
But what I mean by that is, it's 25, but he's resonated with Canada for a long time. He scored the goal in Qatar.
Yep.
People have known him for a long time. You said earlier that you would hope that you wouldn't be the face. He might be the face.
He has to be.
He has to be the face.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you would say?
Yeah. And he's ready for it. And he wants that, right? But we have other guys that can carry that load as well. Stefan Estacchio, Johnny David, Kyle Larin, Alistair Johnston. I mean, all these guys, they're all ready. Yeah. They're all ready, and we still have some time to continue to develop it, but we've got to, every time we're together, and again, every moment that they're developing themselves in their professional own lives, this has to be the focus. But every week I watch them, I'm very proud of them, I'm very encouraged, and I'm their biggest supporter.
And what you have there now is a true culture, which is not easy to develop. Are you cognizant of that then when you do, it's not really a sales pitch, but when you do the recruitment for dual nationals? Let's talk about Daniel Jefferson. How much do you talk about the character and what you learn about these players? Because we all know the talent. We all know that the commitment to Canada, Oakville till 13. How much are you aware of what you're bringing him into and make sure he's the right piece?
Look, from the beginning with Daniel, I could see that he had personality, right? And he has a lot of self-belief. And I said to him, we need some of that in our team, but you also have to understand that this is a special group and they're very protective of what it means to be a part of the national team. They're very welcoming and they're very open, but there's a very high standard for what the selflessness means, what the commitment to each other means, what the love of playing for the country means. And it's been very, I've been very deliberate with the discussions I've had with Daniel in that sense, and he's excited about it. And it's the same with Promise David, right? They're both so excited about the opportunity to represent Canada, and they feel very Canadian. And again, this is kind of part of it. It's this multicultural heritage aspect of having different experiences from different places, but being so strongly linked with the feeling of being a Canadian. So, yeah, I mean, Daniel is, I think, going to be a great asset to our team moving forward, and he's a big weapon that we've obtained.
What does he bring that you don't have right now?
Well, it's not really what we don't have. It's in addition. He's another guy that's vertical, that's fast, that's powerful, that's aggressive. And now it's my job, I think, to help. He's somewhat raw still, and he's still developing himself, and he's young. But it'll be my job to help, I think, integrate him quickly into how we think, how we play, refine him a little bit more into some of the instincts that we've created within our team. But he's like, if I were scouting a club to play the way we would want, I would have gone and got Daniel Jebison and thinking this is a great addition to our team. He fits perfectly what we do. So I expect this to be a quick assimilation for him. You've
coached Canada for 13 games now. Is there one in particular that you find yourself thinking about more than others?
Good or bad?
Both. Which one do you think about the most?
I even when I've gone around and talked to coaches, for me as a coach, the most rewarding game was Uruguay, because we made 6 changes. And the game could have looked like a lot of things. It can look a little bit messy sometimes when you do that, but the team was clear and concise, and the performance was strong, and the mentality within the performance, it looked like a Canadian national team that had already been established, right? And so I think that says a lot about the environment and the coaching job that we've done, and how we've been able to be clear with what we've communicated. But maybe the in terms of the highest level, maybe it was the Venezuela game. And that was maybe the moment where I felt like things clicked and where the players really understood the level at which we want to do things. And that game was fast and strong, and that was a high level match from us.
That's when your team became smart, no? Like, don't you think you've got that with you now? Like, it's one thing to have athletes, tactically sound, talented, passionate, dedicated, good people, but intelligence, game intelligence, like real characters who are not losing their mind and not losing, and the emotional intelligence. That's what I see for a team now when it comes to tournaments like this, and obviously Gold Cup, but more importantly, the World Cup.
Yeah, look, they've had a wealth of experiences together that include winning Concacaf, being in the World Cup already, even though they were disappointed on the results in the World Cup. I think that the wealth of experiences led them to be ready for that moment, but then also I think the concentration on the development of the way we wanted to play and how we wanted to be, I think had led them to be less in the moment about the stress of the results and more in the moment of how we want to play the match and who we want to be. And that will be key moving forward, because in the World Cup, there's, we have to make, with all the talk about the World Cup and even how I emphasize it, one thing we have to make sure is that when we get there, that there's an ease to the team.
Right.
That there's not like, oh, here we are at this great moment, that there's like, all right, we've built a lot and we're ready, right? And so in general, that's my emphasis, is the urgency of what we do every day, the concentration to when we work, when we do video, when we are talking about what kind of team we want to be, how we want to play, that the concentration's at a high level, but that the rest of the time we enjoy it, that we enjoy being together, we enjoy the process, that it's a fun environment, but it's a very, very hard-working environment.
A lot of people are going to think, some casuals, that you're playing the US in this Nations League. Maybe you will on the Sunday if it all goes well, but you have Mexico first. Now, Canada against Mexico, traditionally when it's gone well for Canada, has been almost a precursor to something else. Those of us that covered the game in Edmonton, in Azteca, will tell you that when they won that game, many people started to believe this is going to happen. They're going to get to Qatar, right? When we would say that when they've done that in the past, particularly the Gold Cup in 2000, when they were able to knock them out that time and they went on to win that.
Yeah.
These things have been precursors to something else.
Yeah.
How important is it to make sure that your team is just solely focused on that and not necessarily thinking we want another shot at the US?
No, I think our team knows the last time we played against Mexico, it was incredibly combative. I think they had a lot of respect and frankly fear of our speed and power, and so they knew that they couldn't let us get into open spaces. I thought Javier Aguirre put together a good match plan, and their team committed to the physicality and made it very difficult on us. But so we know that this game's not easy. I mean, it's kind of one of the beauties about playing Mexico in the semifinal is I'm not afraid of the team looking past it at all. Like, they know exactly that this is an incredibly difficult task. And my respect in general for Mexican football, and I played for Chivas USA, and I know a lot of Mexican football legends, Jorge Campos, Claudio Suarez, Paco Palencia, Ramon Ramirez, played with a lot of great Mexican players. That all means that we'll be ready for this, you know, and then it'll come down to, are we better on the day? Can we perform better than Mexico can? And then if we do, then it'll give us an opportunity to compete for a trophy. But step one is a big one and one that we're entirely focused on.
Before we wrap it up, I'm sure you've been circling that date for a long time. You are, before you get here, you're a club coach, game after game after game. How has been the transition where you've had to manage yourself a little bit and go, I have to wait for these moments where I think that I'm probably at my best? I mean, trust me, I've been on some of these talks with you, and you're a world-class talker. You're reinvigorating this country across the fantastic tour that you're doing. But I know you're in your happy place, are you not, when it comes to these games?
Like, we were watching, after we beat Suriname in Toronto, we were watching the Mexico-Honduras game, and like I knew Mexico was going to win.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, you know, I said to the staff, I wish we played this in 3 days.
Right.
And it's 4 months. And so it's given us time to prepare. It's also, look, there's a job to be done that's different than the team that's about building the sport in the country. And raising funds and investing in infrastructure, and I think getting, again, Casey Stoney here. It's Kevin who did this, but like, you know, I tried to help in the process to convince her that this was the right thing to do. You know, and then we need to, the U17s did a great job, and we were working on that. I've been doing coaching clinics. So I'm fully invested in this, and I know the importance of being the national team, the responsibility, and I relish it. And so I get to get back to my day job here in a couple weeks, which will be great. And it'll be great to see, even when I traveled and got to see all the guys, I think we have a really positive vibe and movement happening within the team. And it makes me feel very secure, but also that if I have any stress or anxiousness at all, is to make sure that we don't take our foot off the gas. And ultimately, that's what March is going to be, to make sure that we keep the pedal to the metal, baby. So,
and the final one for you is, you talked about it'll be a very heavy Mexican crowd. We know there'll be a lot of American crowd. There will be obviously Canadian fans there, of course.
Yeah.
But how special is it to know that one day that's going to be different? Turn the script to June 2026, Toronto and then Vancouver, and you've got those games coming up full of Canadians in the World Cup, and you know that's coming up. That must be pretty special.
I've been really impressed with how our team handles playing away from home. Like in
You've had a lot of experience with it.
Yeah. But I mean, in Copa America, like in some of these hostile environments, they weren't fazed at all. And it's almost helped our concentration more. We've performed well at home as in my time here as well. So again, the guys have backed up everything we've done, every performance. They really have. And so I expect that again, and we'll need that again, and this will be the challenge.
Listen, thank you for everything you've done. And I mean that not just for this and the chat that I get to talk to you. There's a lot of people out there watching this who send messages that don't get to be blessed like I do to sit down in your company, and they want to say thank you to you as well. So thanks for stepping up, taking on what you did, and saying what you did about this country. I always appreciate you.
Thanks, pal.